This cake was named after Queen Victoria, who apparently enjoyed a slice of it with her tea every day. It's still very, very popular in England, whether it's for afternoon tea with the Queen or a children's birthday party. The cake is called a Victoria sponge cake. It's a plain sponge filled with jam and buttercream, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make it. I will, as always, be using simple English so you can follow this recipe even if your English is not fluent yet. Here are the ingredients for the cake. 3 eggs, 1½ teaspoons of baking powder, 150 grams of flour, 150 grams of sugar, 150 grams of butter, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. When you're baking a cake, the first step is always to switch on the oven. If you are reading a recipe, it may say preheat. This just means make sure the oven is hot before you put your cake in it. For this recipe, we need the oven at 180 degrees Celsius. That's 375 Fahrenheit. The first step is to cream together the butter and sugar. When a recipe tells you to cream the mixture, it just means to squash it, mash it, and stir it up until it looks creamy. So I'm adding 150 grams of butter and 150 grams of sugar. When this is creamed together well, it will look like this. Next, add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. In recipes, teaspoon is usually written as TSP. If you see TBSP, that means tablespoon, which is this size. Mix in the vanilla. Next, take your 3 eggs and break them into a jug. Your recipe might say beat the eggs or whisk the eggs. That means the same thing. It just means mix them up until the yolks and the whites are all mixed together. Now I'm going to take my beaten eggs and mix them with the butter and sugar. When that's mixed, you can add your flour and baking powder. I have 150 grams of flour and I'm going to use 1½ teaspoons of baking powder. Add the flour a little at a time. You don't want to dump the whole bowl of flour in there. You will end up with some dry clumps of flour in your cake. So a little flour and mix, a little more flour and mix until it's all mixed in. When you add the baking powder, make sure it's spread out around the whole of the bowl. You need to spread out the baking powder and mix it in very well so that you don't get any dry lumps in the cake. When you finish mixing, your mixture should look like this, and you need to put it into 2 cake tins. These are 8-inch cake tins, that's 20 centimetres, and I've lined them with baking paper to stop the cake sticking. Split the mixture in half of the mixture in each tin, and put it in the oven for about 20 minutes. When the cake is done, you can make the filling. The filling is made from strawberry jam and buttercream. Buttercream is a sweet butter. We're going to use 220 grams of icing sugar, 150 grams of butter, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. You can also fill this cake with jam and whipped cream, but the recipe I'm using has buttercream. To make the buttercream, I'm going to add the icing sugar and the butter and just mix it together. This is like creaming the butter and sugar at the beginning of the recipe. You might hear icing sugar called powdered sugar because it's very powdery. It's more commonly called powdered sugar in America, and we usually say icing sugar in Britain. Make sure that your cake is cold before you add buttercream. If you try to spread buttercream on a hot cake, of course the butter will melt and your buttercream will just slide off the cake and make a mess. I'm adding 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And mixing that in. Your finished buttercream should look like this. If your cake is still warm, you can put this in the fridge and put it together later. Now I'm ready to put my cake together. The first thing I'm going to do is to spread strawberry jam over 1/2 of the cake. This cake is traditionally made with strawberry jam, but if you want to try a different fruit, you can use any jam that you like. After the jam, we're going to add the buttercream. This buttercream looks a little bit too runny for me. I think it should be thicker than this, but we're going to try it anyway. If you want to make this less runny, you could leave out the vanilla extract and maybe leave out some of the butter. That will make the mixture thicker and less like liquid. Also, it looks like the recipe gave me instructions for far too much buttercream. So you could probably make half of the amount in the recipe and it would still be enough to cover this cake. When that's done, we're going to place the other half of the cake on top. And to finish off, we're going to dust the top with icing sugar. This is dusting the cake with icing sugar. And there it is, Victoria sponge cake.